The diagnostic ran at 0600, same as it had every quarter for 11 years. I pulled up the panel from the secondary console, the one that still ran the original manufacturer's interface because nobody had updated it since the station's last infrastructure review, and started the sweep. Keth-Null 11 was a corridor relay hub. We managed traffic routing for a 6 light-year stretch of the Orveth Passage, tracked signal integrity across 43 active bands, and filed quarterly maintenance reports to the Kethavar Relay Authority's Regional Bureau. The work was orderly. It was mine. The diagnostic enumerated personnel first, standard safety protocol, required by the Bureau since a pressurization incident at another station in my division 14 years back. 11 staff, all present. Then it swept the active band registry for signal bleed, checked relay housing integrity, flagged a slow pressure variance in Junction 7's secondary seal ring that had been trending in the wrong direction for 2 cycles, and logged the whole summary to the maintenance queue. I noted the Junction 7 annotation, added it to my escalation memo to the Regional Bureau, and closed the panel. It was 0618. I went to the commissary and had breakfast. The Terran vessel requested docking clearance at 0941. I was reviewing relay attenuation figures when my comms officer, Sarah Orath-Pale, put her head around the partition with the expression she used when something had happened that she was not certain how to categorize. That expression usually preceded a conversation I would not enjoy. Administrator, there is a Terran survey tender asking for an approach vector. I put down the figures. A survey tender. Yes, the Arrow Hatch class. She's transmitting a charter identification under Article 6 of something called the Joint Corridor Maintenance Accord. I did not know what the Joint Corridor Maintenance Accord was. I told Sarah as much. She confirmed she did not know either. We looked at each other for a moment, and then I told her to grant the approach vector and find me whatever we had on an accord by that name. The survey tender was called the Pale Spar. She was mid-sized, well-maintained, and her docking request was filed in correct format, with what I later confirmed was the proper charter prefix for the accord in question. Her comms officer, a Terran specialist named Corrigan, was polite, unhurried, and conveyed a degree of calm that I found disproportionate to the situation, which I was beginning to understand was unusual. He explained, while the Pale Spar settled into Dock 2, that Earth's Deep Grid Monitoring Array had flagged band Orveth-Keth-Nine at 0621 that morning. The flag was a welfare trigger, Article 6 of the Joint Corridor Maintenance Accord, 97 years old, signed between the Kethavar Relay Authority's predecessor directorate and Earth's Joint Survey Administration. The accord had established a shared maintenance frequency for the Orveth Passage. Earth had kept it on active monitoring status. Our side apparently had not reviewed the accord in some time. What specifically triggered the flag? I asked. Specialist Corrigan pulled up his incident log. A personnel enumeration string, 11 names, paired with a pressure anomaly code on a monitored band. Our welfare algorithm reads that combination as a possible mass casualty precursor under Article 6. I sat with that for a moment. That was our quarterly diagnostic. Yes, he said. We understand that now. He did not seem embarrassed. He did not seem apologetic. He seemed as though this was a perfectly reasonable outcome of a perfectly reasonable protocol, and his job was to complete the welfare check and file the paperwork, which was what he intended to do. I found it difficult to argue with that logic, partly because I was still reconstructing the sequence of events in my head, and partly because the engineering platform had just requested a docking vector for Dock 4. I looked at Sarah. She had already pulled up the docking queue. The platform was the Orveth Reach. She was larger than the Pale Spar, and her crew manifest included a structural remediation team. Specialist Corrigan explained that the pressure anomaly in Junction 7 had been coded at a severity level that triggered a supplementary engineering dispatch under Article 6's Mass Casualty Prevention Annex. Junction 7 has a slow seal ring variance, I said. It has been trending for 2 cycles. It is not an emergency. Article 6 does not distinguish between a slow variance and an acute failure, Corrigan said. Both are flagged for response. The engineering team will assess on arrival and file their own determination. I told him that was acceptable, because I could not think of a reason why it was not, and because the Orveth Reach was already on her final approach. The medical corvette arrived 40 minutes later. Her name was the Mercer's Reach, and she carried a broad-spectrum wellness team formatted for general biological profiles. The team leader, a physician named Ashcroft, informed me that her orders were to complete a personnel wellness survey for 11 station staff, cross-referenced against the personnel enumeration in the original welfare flag. She was thorough and unhurried, and had brought her own portable diagnostic array. She asked where she could set up. I showed her to the common room. While Dr. Ashcroft's team worked through the station, I sat at my console and looked up the Joint Corridor Maintenance Accord. It was 97 years old. The Kethavar Relay Authority's predecessor directorate had co-signed it during the early period of the Orveth passage's development, when coordinating maintenance frequencies had been considered a practical necessity. The Accord's operative terms were intact. Earth's obligations under it were intact. Our Bureau's obligations were also technically intact, though the Accord had not appeared in any of my quarterly briefings, any regulatory reference materials, or any of the station's operating documentation. A footnote in Annex 3 referenced a companion registry. I pulled the registry. Band Orveth-Keth-Nine was listed as a joint maintenance frequency, active monitoring status, both parties, no expiration. We had been running our quarterly diagnostic on that band for 11 years. 11 years. Every quarter, the sweep enumerated personnel and logged anomaly codes, and every quarter Earth's monitoring array had apparently received that sweep and, at some point, begun flagging it under Article 6. I pulled the incident archive. This was the third response. The first had been dispatched 22 months ago. A single supply tender, automated cargo drop, no personnel aboard. The manifest showed broad-spectrum maintenance supplies, general format, compatible with our station class. The supplies had been delivered to our external cargo intake during a scheduled maintenance window, and the automated receipt system had logged the transfer without escalating it to my attention. I had never seen it. The second response had come 19 months ago. Another automated tender, medical consumables and atmospheric filter units, same delivery method. I sat back in my chair. The Kethavar Relay Authority's Regional Bureau had not answered my Junction 7 escalation memo. I had filed it 6 weeks ago and one 14 months ago about the same seal ring. The Bureau's standard response window for non-emergency infrastructure matters was 45 working days. Through the observation dome above my console, I could see the Orveth Reach's crew at work in the Junction 7 access corridor. They had brought their own equipment. One of them, a structural engineer with a compact resonance scanner, was running a full assessment of the seal ring. Another was photographing the pressure variance trend readout I had been compiling for 2 cycles. A third had asked Sarah, politely, for access to our maintenance logs going back 4 years, and Sarah had provided them without consulting me, because the request was courteous and the charter prefix was valid. I did not refuse it either. Dr. Ashcroft completed her wellness survey at 1314. 11 staff, all within normal parameters. She flagged 2 members of my team for a nutrition follow-up, which she delivered herself in the common room, over the station's midday meal, so quietly that both staff members later told me they had not realized they were receiving medical advice. She filed her report to the Pale Spar, told me the wellness flag was being closed, and thanked me for the use of the common room. The engineering team filed their determination at 1520. Junction 7's seal ring required replacement within 1 maintenance cycle. They had brought a compatible replacement unit aboard the Orveth Reach, anticipating the finding, and they completed the installation before departing at 1743. The work was documented, signed, and transmitted to Earth's monitoring archive under the Accord's maintenance completion protocol. A copy was filed to my maintenance queue automatically. I watched the Orveth Reach undock from the observation dome. The Pale Spar and the Mercer's Reach had already gone. Dock 2 and Dock 4 were empty. Kethnal 11 looked exactly as it had at 0600, except that Junction 7's pressure trend was now flat and 2 of my staff were eating more protein. I opened the incident report form and began to fill it in. The mandatory fields were straightforward: the Accord citation, the dispatch record, the personnel welfare outcome, the engineering determination, the maintenance completion. I worked through them in order, same as any other administrative task. At the bottom of the form was a notes field. It was optional. I sat for a while looking at it. 11 years of quarterly diagnostics on band Orveth-Keth-Nine. 2 prior responses I had never known about. A seal ring that my own bureau had not found time to answer, replaced in an afternoon by a crew that came because a personnel enumeration string, and an anomaly code on a maintenance frequency matched an Article 6 welfare pattern. I typed 1 line in the notes field. Band Orveth-Keth-Nine is to remain on the active sweep registry. Do not remove it from the quarterly diagnostic. I did not explain why. The notes field was optional. I filed the report, closed the panel, and went back to the relay attenuation figures. They needed reviewing, and the afternoon was still long.